of January 10th, 2023, and I'm Patrick McCoy. I am joined by Councilpersons Flynn and Vaccaro. We will start with comments, suggestions, petitions by residents in attendance regarding items not on the agenda.
All right, that would be us. Am I on, Bill?
Oh, that's
You sound good, Keith.
Keith.
Everyone is confused.
I apologize. I apologize to the committee. I especially apologize to Victoria. Long story short, my wife tested positive for COVID at urgent care yesterday, and both myself and my daughter home tested positive today. So I was literally at work 2 hours ago, and now I'm at home. But I did not want to. I did not want to be part of this meeting because I feel very strongly about it. I'll let Victoria do some of the heavy lifting, and I apologize, but this idea was brought to the borough from the Westchester Library in early to mid-December, and due to the holidays and vacations, it didn't get shuffled under the rug, but unfortunately, timing just didn't work out that we could get it on the official agenda for this evening. So that's why we're speaking to you in this capacity here. The library's been presented with the potential for a grant for a story walk. And that story walk is basically, Bill, if you scroll through this, you can see a little bit more of what the library did once before. It's basically a larger than life book that would be on pedals, or excuse me, would be on like 4x4 posts in our parks, in a park. That park is yet to be determined because we have to get permission from council before we move to that particular part of this project. The great part about this is this story walk would not only promote literacy in the borough, it would also promote exercise. You actually have to get out and move around the park to read the story and continue from one end of the park to the other to get from the beginning of the story to the end. I'll let Victoria speak a little bit more in depth about the actual grant itself, but in my understanding and my conversation with Victoria and me reading over the grant guidelines, it's pretty much the only thing the borough would be responsible for is from a monetary aspect would be the installation of the posts and the signs themselves that create the story walk, which is just the labor. The grant that the library is applying for would actually cover everything else. The big issue with that is we'd have to find a park, and we already have one park. Everhart Park is already, if this is approved, to have it there. I would like to open it up to all the parks if it is approved by Borough Council or by this committee and then council. But it's a really cool endeavor that we could take part in, join forces with the library, promote exercise and literacy in the borough of Westchester, in our parks. I think it's a win-win all the way around. The cost to the borough would be nominal in the long run. The biggest issue, again, is the labor that the borough would need to put the signs into the ground, and then we have to commit to this story walk being on borough property. It doesn't have to necessarily stay in the same park for 3 years. With that being said, I'll let Victoria take over about the actual grant itself. And again, I apologize for not being there in person.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Victoria Dowd, Director of the Westchester Public Library. So this grant it's federal money that I believe is coming through the library's Science Technology Act, administered by the Commonwealth Libraries. And it is a very short turnaround. The deadline to apply is the 20th of January. So you can see we kind of, if we're going to do this, we're going to need your approval of it, full borough council approval. I think, Keith, if I'm correct, I guess a resolution or something has to be written up for borough council then to actually approve on the 19th. That can go with the application that goes in before 5 o'clock on the 20th. The grant would pay for all of the materials. That's the books, the laminating, the frames, the posts, any, cement, whatever's needed to set the posts along whatever pathway. And what's needed from the borough from Public Works is the labor to do the actual installation. There is a story walk maintained by the Chester County Library up in the Exton Park. And that's been there since 2017. They change out the books twice a year. Basically, it's a matter of just opening up the frame, putting the new book in, and it is a picture book. So this is not, you're not reading a huge story. You're reading a picture book. So it's a limited number of words to actually read. The idea is, here's the picture, whatever the text is that goes with it, and you move on to the next page. And picture books are usually about 16 pages, I believe. So it's not endlessly long, right? I think it's would be a good addition to one of the parks. I think we had said that, Everhart would be great. And I know that Rachel Kagan has her heart, in Everhart Park. Hoops Park would be great too. I think you'd get a lot more exercise there because you have to go up and down hills. It would also be a way to promote the library too, to, people who go to that park to discover, hey, wow, yeah, there is a library in Westchester that you can go visit. So that's what we're asking. I don't know if you want to, can you show the website that shows the actual frames?
It's Bill, it's in the email. It's in the bottom of the email I sent you.
It's one of the links. It's a funny company names like Barking Dog or something like that. Yeah, so there's actually a company out there now that makes the frames for this purpose. The staff member who put together the story walk that we did in the fall of 2020 in businesses in the borough got a quote from them, and so we already have an idea that it's less than $4,000 for the posts and the frames. That's pretty much what it looks like.
Storywalk Solutions. So
Yeah.
It just has that one post. sticking
Yeah.
out of the ground.
That one.
Okay,
Yep.
That's what it would be.
Yeah. And as I said, there is one up in Exton. And the Chester County Library does have a link to it off their own website. So that's a quick view of it. Have any questions?
Can I ask Sean, do we actually have time to do this by the 20th? Does that work?
Well, I have some questions. Time-wise, today's January 10th. If you don't mind, do you want me to ask those now?
Sure.
Okay.
Are you okay with that?
Typically with my experience with grant applications is the grant requirements will tell you what you need from the governing body. So you were asking us how we would approve it. I think the grant application will tell you what you need from the governing body. If it's a resolution, my experience has been you can actually post date resolutions. So you can send I don't know anything about this grant.
Right.
But with grants I've worked with, you can apply for the grant by the deadline and send in a post-dated resolution from the governing body, because grantors know councils meet once a month and we have deadlines with agendas, and that's
Yeah.
usually typically okay.
I think, I think it probably, and Keith, you might have this in front of you. I've looked at this grant several times. It may be enough at this point to have even a letter
Yes. If
stating
Bill-
that the
I
borough
apologize.
supports this and will place it in a park and will agree to have it there for 3 years.
Correct. If Bill goes back to the attachment, I think it was the granting rules. Let me see if I can pull that up correctly. It was item number 16 on the previous attachment that I'd sent to Bill, a memorandum of understanding. So if this committee and the borough manager were to be so inclined to or feel inclined to approve this to move before council between now and next Tuesday, myself, with maybe the help of Victoria, would draft up that memorandum of understanding of what is required of the borough. It's item 16 right here. Therefore, it can be reviewed, it can be worked on between now and then. And if we have all of our ducks lined up at that point in time, council could then approve that memorandum of understanding, which is basically just stating that we are allowing this particular installation to take place on borough property and that it will be maintained for 3 years on borough property.
All right, and then my other question is just centered around what a story walk is. I'm going to fire a bunch of questions out. So do you have plans drawn up? Well, how many boards are you proposing? Where are they going to be located? What's the size? How are they anchored? And what's the content of the story that you're going to be putting?
Well, we haven't picked a book yet. Okay. And I'm,
You understand why I'm asking?
yeah, I know. It'll be something that, might center around nature. It might center around colors, something, along that line.
Yeah, it's a big playing field, but
Yeah. It's something that
off the playing field with something.
that's going to work for, if not 100% of the people, 99% of the people. Okay. Something that, appeals to children. Look at the leaves, the animals, colors, things like that. Okay. As to, how are those frames anchored? I can't speak to that exactly because I haven't looked specifically at the Storywalk Solutions site to see, how are they anchored. But I will say that enough of these have been installed and they work that I'm pretty confident that, what they're going to give us if we go forward with this is going to be sturdy enough to hold up. And I spoke to the person up at Chester County Library, and she said basically the one thing they need to do this year is they're just going to revarnish the frames, which tells me they hold up pretty well. Okay.
My 2 cents to the committee would be to have the memorandum of understanding reviewed by legal counsel and also that there be a plan in place so we know what is going where. So we know.
I mean,
we know what we're authorizing. I don't recommend ever authorizing something if there's not a plan in place for what it's supposed to be.
I think our assumption would be that we would need to come back to get approval for the actual location and placement of the installation. So I don't know if we could include that on the memorandum, like within borough property yet to be approved by council, the park, and exactly where everything goes.
I mean, since we don't know exactly where, I can't tell you, well, they're going to be 20 feet apart.
I think that just generally speaking, the more variables you can solve,
Mhm.
the better. That would be my recommendation to the committee.
I mean, we can certainly, I can probably hash out a lot of that. Between now and
Right. And
Tuesday.
if I may speak to that really quickly, one of the things I had read through this process is that anything we do would obviously need the committee and council's approval, but the story can change. It doesn't have to be the same story for 3 years. The only thing we're asking for currently would be that the borough is allowing this installation to take place on borough property. The plan itself, and again, I understand what Sean is saying, that we need to, I guess, tidy it up a bit so we're not leaving so many loose ends, but it technically wouldn't even have to stay in, just say if it was Everhart Park, it wouldn't have to stay there for its entirety of 3 years. It can move to Hoops Park. It can move to Marshall Square. It can move to Fugit. This particular memorandum of understanding would just be simply allowing this installation for its duration to be on borough property, and the borough is allowing that to take place.
I'm very concerned about a lack of a plan too. I want to see that you're going to put it in Everhart Park. It's going to be there for 3 years, and you are going to be responsible for changing out the story every 3 months. I don't care what the plan really is, but I want it all spelled out, and I want a clear understanding. I'm totally in support of it. I love the idea. I think it's great, but the expectation that we are going to push this through in 10 days.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
makes me
really
nervous.
sorry about the timing. It
Like,
couldn't have been worse. It could not have been worse. And when I saw the deadline, it was like, you got to be kidding me,
I completely understand
Yeah.
that.
you know?
It makes me nervous. I
Yeah.
don't want to get stuck.
I think our fear is that this grant may go, like, if we don't apply and get it now, it may never happen. So I think we'd rather try and get it than pass this opportunity by and then not be able to do it again in the future. Because we don't know that there's grant money is gonna be up for grabs in the future.
Mr. McCoy, I totally support the idea. The two historic parks don't need something like this because they have their own attractions. I believe that the Hoops Park this could be Hoops Park's attraction
I agree.
for their site. Plus, it's a longer walk. Council's big problem is responsibility chain. Public Works could have that done in a day. Our people are quality.
Oh, yeah. of
And they're
course.
putting in concrete and the content of the story.
Mhm.
You know, council would really want to weigh in on making sure there's the right content going in.
Mhm.
But the overall responsibility chain, if something goes wrong, something's broken, that's the main thing, that we don't have
Yeah.
a story missing, 2 pages.
Well, I mean, one of the things that I would do, and I think that Exton, when they did this as well, you buy some extra frames because stuff happens. Okay. Yeah. You just kind of build that in. As I said, I think that Meg had said, 16 frames and posts. Yeah, but it's 16. It's like, no, because you've got 2 pages in each one
Yeah, it's like when you open the
Okay.
book.
when you open the book. So you have a cover, then you have, the next two, the next two, the next two. So you're talking about 16 posts and frames to install. Okay. And then, you look at, well, how long is the walking path for how far apart? And, you're thinking about the fact that this is meant for families maybe with younger children, how far can you expect a 3-year-old, 4-year-old to walk?
Ms. Vaquera's point, the responsibility chain is missing. The concept is good, my thought process. I would select Hoops Park because that would be their attraction. The other two have their own thing going on. And the Mr. Metric, council would jump on it right away if they had all the immediate details.
So, could we provide to you a list of books, the location, and a rough map of where?
The
we would build it?
responsibility chain.
And a responsibility, but who's going to go out and check them? Yeah, exactly.
You okay with that, Mr. McCoy?
Yeah, I don't think we need to overcomplicate it for the MOA. I think as long as you outline that council has, say over location and content, along with the other things that you need, I think that should cover it. We should be able to get that done by next week.
Okay.
So you have approval over content, location, and the
Yeah.
library maintains.
Right.
Also, how frequently these will be changed out. I'd like
We
that.
probably would do the change. Chester County does it twice a year, and that seems reasonable. They do one in the spring and one in the fall. And that's when, they go through, they clean the plexiglass, make sure everything's okay. Is there any damp that's gotten in, check the frames, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Can you include that?
Hmm?
Write that all. Write that all down.
Right. Yep. All right.
Thank you very much. Any other issues from public on items that are not on the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item 3, discuss department monthly reports. and starting with Public Works. I see Mr. Edwards is not here, and Mr. Anderson. Thank you.
Man. Don Anderson, Assistant Director of Public Works. Mr. Edwards can't make it tonight, so I'll be filling in for him. Bill, could you put that list up, please, that agenda? Did you put up the monthly report? That's okay. As you can see, Mr. Edwards left me a number of items here. Would you like me to go through every last one, or do you want to just me pick out a few items?
You could just pick out a few highlights.
Okay, I'd like to speak about 14, the winter snow removal operations. Right now, we recently got a committee together with Mr. Metrick and a few other individuals to discuss some of the safety aspects of our snow removal operations. I think we're going to keep these meetings going on monthly so that we can discuss not only the safety aspect, but actually how we go about our snow removal operation. That's just one aspect. I'm a little nervous this first time I got up here, so I just want to let you know that also.
You're doing great.
We also discussed with the police department the interactions we have during the actual snow removal process. We also had Ramsey involved because she's part of the parking department, which also is part of this whole operation. We also just discussed a little bit about how we actually go about the actual removal. The borough is, give you a little quick background on how we go about it. The borough is broken down into 4 quadrants, which is the northwest, southwest, southeast, and southwest. We normally have a vehicle in each of these quadrants doing snow removal operations. We also have what is considered our snow emergency routes. So we have a vehicle out there. So normally we have roughly about 5 vehicles out during snow removal operations. And depending on the size of the operation, we could have additional vehicles. So the process normally starts with us applying some type of brine or salt solution to the ground to keep the snow from sticking to it. And then once the snow gets started, then we get out there and start plowing. And we'll keep on plowing until it's over with. I guess that's about the best I can explain about that. I guess I want to add also 13, our leaf collection process. I'll give you a little bit of details about that because that just finished in the end of, I guess it was the end of November of last year, and Mr. Edwards didn't get a chance to speak upon it. Our leaf removal operations normally start at the beginning of November, and they go all the way into, they last for 6 weeks, Monday through Thursday, and we rotate through different quadrants. I just did a quick analysis of the amount of leaves we collected during this last year's collection, and it was roughly 3,500 cubic yards of leaves collected during that process. To give you a rough estimate of what that actually is, if you're familiar with a backhoe, I hope you all are, a backhoe, the actual backhoe, the front bucket being filled up 3,500 times. That's how much leaves we normally collect during a season. Along with that comes what we're in the process of doing now is collecting trees. Every year we collect roughly 600 trees from the borough residents. So that can give you a good idea as to how much compost we build up in a year's time, along with our yard waste program. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me.
I just have a good question about the leaves. What do we do with them? Do we compost them and reuse it?
Our leaves are stored at Snyder Avenue, and then we have a company that actually turns that stuff back into mulch. So it's recycled, basically.
And do we get any of that back as the borough for parks or anything?
No, not at this time. We don't.
Okay, thanks.
And same thing with Christmas trees and yard waste. Any?
Mr. Assistant Director,
There you
I'm in.
go.
How familiar are you with number 7?
Number 7.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
I supplied some information to Al Venatelli back then. I don't know exactly where they're at with that right now. The understanding I got was that was kind of already taken care of.
And the John O'Green number 12, Mr. Edwards presented to us a while back, possible standalone surface mounted restrooms.
Restrooms, yes.
Yeah, remember I met you down there on that?
Yes.
Where does that stand?
I haven't heard anything else about that yet.
Okay.
I know he presented it to, I guess, council. That's been up there for a while now. So I don't know.
Okay, it's all right. Know how many things I don't know? I don't know what I don't know. So it's all good. But the number 13, what's the university doing for us or with us at John O'Green Park, if you know?
For number 13?
Yeah, 12.
Well, I am not familiar with that project at all. That's, let me go sit down somewhere, right? Is that it? Does anybody have anything else?
Not for me. Nice job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wastewater,
Yep,
welcome.
wastewater. Hello, everybody. Mike Finley, Taylor Run Superintendent. At Taylor Run this past month, we repaired a heat tracing and replaced the installation in our dechlorination system. Okay, how's that better? Okay. We repaired a heat tracing and replaced the installation on a dechlorination system. We cleaned and rotated the filter number 2 and put on standby and running on filter 1 and 3 on our new tertiary system. New Year's Day, we snapped a shaft on one of our rotating biological contactors. That's like the lifeline of the plant. It's emergency repair that's vital to our process. The estimated cost is going to be $32,000, but it has to get done. Any questions? Okay, I know. I figured. I know. So we can move along to Goose Creek then. Okay. All pump station wet wells were inspected and cleaned. Worthington Station had both their pumps pulled and seals replaced. College Avenue had electrical issues diagnosed and repaired. The T13 sludge tank mixer had a short in the wiring. New wire was pulled and the breaker motor were checked after it was complete. And one of their clarifiers, the framing of the arm going around broke. They had to drain the tank, cut new tabs on, weld them on, and get it back in service the same day. That's all I have.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Is Mr. Krause still on for Parks and Recreation?
Yes, I am.
You're on.
Okay, sorry. I wanted to touch on a few things. Again, feel free to ask any questions you'd like. I wanted to reach back to the very beginning of December on December 3rd. Two events that we have that the Parks and Rec Department that take place as part of the overall old-fashioned Christmas in the borough of Westchester. We had our annual Breakfast with Santa at the Chester County History Center. It's a well-attended event every year. Almost 100 people attended. We'd have more if the space provided. I have to turn people away every year. The main one I wanted to talk about was the one after that, which was the Santa at the Square. This was the second year that we've had this event. This event was born out of COVID last year. We were still kind of doing events outdoors, social distancing before we got to where we are now. And I'm so glad that it was. It's a fantastic event. Last year, we had an amazing turnout. We were well on our way to a great turnout this year as well. 50 degrees on December 3rd in the borough of Westchester. You think things are going to go great. You wouldn't expect like a mini tornado to pop up. Unfortunately, one small cell hovered over Marshall Square Park for about 10 minutes between, say, 5:40 and 5:50, and pretty much wiped the event out. We had a couple hundred people that had already gone through to see Santa that were enjoying the park. If you have not seen the park around that time of year, we blow it up with Christmas lights, decorations. The gazebo looks fantastic. One of my recreation commission members, who is a outdoor lighting specialist, takes care of uplighting of the trees. We have Santa come drop, or excuse me, the police come drop off Santa. The sponsors are there passing out goodies. It was a great event, and you know, being an event planner in the borough for quite a few years now, I now know that this event will need a rain date for next year, possibly a thunderstorm rain date for next year. But with those two events aside, the one item that I wanted to touch on in this report is looking forward. Obviously, this is going to be a big year with the update to the borough's recreation plan. We are going to be hopefully in February putting out the RFP with approval and looking at potential suitors, if you will, that can complete the task and fulfill the needs as per the request for proposals. We've drafted up the scope of work. Sean and I still may need to do a little bit of tweaking upon that, but for the most part, it's looking very good. This is a plan that I've been talking about for probably 2 years now. It is direly needed. It's going to require a lot of public input, the friends groups, the public at large, the committees, council. We are also going to be, as part of the scope of work, we're going to be looking to create a kind of leadership group for this particular plan that may involve a council member or committee members. I'm just really looking forward to kind of getting back to focusing on our parks, our recreation, what it is that our parks can offer in the form of recreation, whether it be in the form of programming and activities, or if it's actual physical, physical equipment that is needed. Our parks are quite old. Some need a facelift more than others, but I think throughout the process, and it could take anywhere between 6 to 9 months from start to finish, I think we'll be in a much better place then than we are now. And I'm really looking forward to the process. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer any.
Keith, I just had one question on your list of the capital plans. You noted a couple of features to be added for the bocce ball, disc golf, et cetera, and you just have to a park. Have those parks been selected, or
Not
how does that get selected?
Well, through the Recreation Commission, we will be meeting at the end of this month. We've had some quote unquote soft feelers out there as to where some of these would go. I don't want to give anything away as of right now. But I'll be honest, like the disc golf, I've been working with a couple local communities that have disc golf. I've been talking with some quote unquote professionals in that area as to what is needed, what is required, how much space you need, how do you create this, how much is on volunteers, how much is for, the borough to bear. I actually have a meeting set up with East Bradford, a gentleman next week. His name's Rich Pfeiffer. He's with East Bradford at their Mount Bradford Preserve. They have a 9-hole disc golf course. It's actually 18 holes because they have two goals for each hole. So each hole plays a little differently. And these are things that I'm learning. I'm not an avid disc golf player. I played a handful of times in different places. But one of the things that the Recreation Commission, along with myself, were brainstorming last year was we're always focusing on kids recreation, which is great. I mean, we want our parks to be full of children, but we were kind of losing the sight and the focus of, hey, there's adults in this area that want to get out and enjoy our parks as well. Now, you don't have to be an adult to play bocce or to play pickleball or to go play disc golf, but they just kind of tend to lean themselves more in that direction. And we want to make sure we're serving all members of our community. I would hope that maybe after the January meeting, like I said, we've had some soft feelers of some parks that said, hey, we'd like this or we'll take that. I would be able to present more information back to you guys in February, at least as far as locations are concerned.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Any other questions?
I got one, Keith, one question about the tennis courts up at Hoops Park.
Yes, sir.
Are we spending any money there? Are we repairing them? Or are we just letting them keep deteriorating? What's going on up there?
The only thing we'd be doing for this year would be under park maintenance, and that would be the same thing we've done probably 2 out of the last 4 years, which is the crack filling and repainting of the lines. I think as part of this recreation plan, we're going to find out how important those courts are. They are extremely important, at least I feel from a perspective that they're the only courts in the borough of Westchester that we own. Um, they're not an easy fix. In order to fix them to the way they should be properly, we really need to rip them out, get down to the root, and rebuild. And that's a $150,000 project. I think throughout this process this year, we're going to find out where that particular project falls in the scope of things. We do not have the programs there like we once did. The leagues have kind of faded. There was a gentleman who kind of handled those leagues for us by the name of Wesley Butler. He is no longer with us. I think that's kind of why the leagues faded. I do work with some local tennis programs that do still use the facilities, and then maybe they don't use them because they're not as nice as, say, West Goshen or the high school courts or so forth. But again, I think we'll get to the root of those issues throughout this process.
I'll be forwarding to you tomorrow a name of a local company. That both people that own the company live in the borough. They're named Thompson and Foster.
Okay.
And they own a business right here on Beaumont Street that does resurfacing of tennis courts and basketball courts. And they're willing to do a joint venture with the borough. So I'll make sure I get you that information, and maybe we could look forward to maybe the fall of 2024 or something like that.
Yeah, I'm absolutely. The last time we did a full-on resurfacing of the courts, I want to say was probably 2015, 2016. It probably cost us about somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000-$25,000. And that's just, again, that's just very topical, where we just basically relay a layer on the top of the courts. What we've been doing in most recent years is crack filling and slightly repainting of those areas where we had to fill. That's anywhere between, say, 3,000 and 5,000. But like I said, in order to fix the root of the problem, it's really a rip out and rebuild. I mean, those courts have been around for 50, 60, 70 years. And obviously, in Pennsylvania, once you get water down into those cracks and the ice comes, it just creates more and more of an issue.
Sort of reinforcing the need for the rec plan. Thank you. Any other questions? Any public comments? Okay, let's move on to
Thank you.
traffic engineer and borough engineer.
Good evening, Will Williams. So I'll start with traffic engineer plan. I'll hit on, I guess, 3 items I wanted to call out. First is our project at High and Minor Street. We submitted a permit application to PennDOT, got a few comments and questions back. I don't think they just ever say, yes, here's your permit. They always have to go a second round. So we got that back this week. We're going to resubmit next week, and that should mean we get our permit next month. We're still on track to let this project next month and have Borough Council, this committee, and then Borough Council approve the contract in March and hopefully get started probably after the university lets out for the summer up there by Diadoche, if you're a cupcake fan. Green Light Go is proceeding smoothly. We're again, that's our project, installing fiber optic cable to a ton of new intersections on High Street and Market Street, all the way into West Goshen. We requested and received what we believe will be a final 6-month extension on the grant to do that project. And then that's just the infrastructure. At that point, we're not actually retiming any of the intersections. But good news there, PennDOT has hired a consultant to do that work throughout the state. Westchester is high on their list of priorities, and we met with the consultant and PennDOT last month to get started there. They're going to start working already on some of our intersections that have the infrastructure, the fiber optics to communicate in real time. And then this will be adding something like 20 or 25 new intersections to that list. So they're looking for us for guidance on, where to start, intersections that are annoying, things like that. And we're really excited about the ability to create programs, they call them. So if we're having, say, Christmas parade or Halloween parade, we can upload a program into the software that will facilitate, certain traffic patterns for special events and things like that. Lastly, at the ACT meeting, Mr. Metrick mentioned the PennDOT project on High Street. We're going to talk about this a little more at council, and I'm not sure who was here for that conversation at the last meeting, but basically the rub with this project is PennDOT is spending about $2 million, but their policy is to replace things like lighting, curbs, sidewalks, like for like. So if you have a concrete sidewalk, you get a new concrete sidewalk. If you have a Cobra Head old-fashioned street light, you get a new old-fashioned street light instead of something that would meet our design aesthetic that private developers are held for. So talked to traffic planning and design about this a little bit this week and prior to this, but we kind of rehashed it this week. It's a very common problem, sort of municipality versus PennDOT and what the vision of the project will be. They have some ideas on how we can push PennDOT on that, but the backup plan would be to create a cost estimate and see how we could either raise those funds or go after a grant to make up that difference and integrate the work into PennDOT's project. So more to follow on that next week. Just wanted to put it on your radar. So I'll pause there for questions before moving to Pannoni. All right, for the Pannoni report, a couple things. I'll highlight the Goose Creek Stormwater Project down at Greenfield Park is completed. Contractor is demobilizing, and we're starting to work on a landscaping plan for the spring. We've had a lot of wet weather, and it's been nice to see driving by those rain gardens functioning, retaining water from the creek just in the light rains we have. So I'm happy with the initial outcomes. Again, it's not going to look great until later in the year. And really, green infrastructure takes a few years to really look the way it does in the rendering. So just bear with us on that. Our Downingtown Pike Bradford Plaza pedestrian safety project, that's back on track. PennDOT finally gave us our second permit approval. Remember, they moved the goalposts on us on this one. So there is a sort of project restart meeting next week. It's really just between Pannoni and the contractor. We wanted to keep it tight and not have one of those 10-person meetings that isn't super productive. We are anticipating a change order for this project, but if you recall, we bid this out twice. The second time, it came under like way under budget. So even with a change order, we're going to be well below budget, but we are going to have a change order to sort of start phase 2 of that project. So another thing for your radar. Hopefully that will be prepared for everyone at next month's meetings.
Well,
Yeah.
the change order, hopefully it's the cost of material and not because they're trying to recoup their low bid.
We know that they're going to try to recoup their low bid. We're all going in with that mindset, but
Okay.
yeah.
I'm okay with the cost of material going up,
No,
not because you forgot a zero.
no, it's not. It's related to the sidewalk. It needs to curve around a little further than we originally anticipated, and there needs to be a retaining wall to create the space for the sidewalk. So it shouldn't be major. Probably on a scale of 5 to 10% of the total project. 2 grant applications went in the week of Christmas. These are total ask over $1 million, 2 different programs with Commonwealth Finance Authority, both for stormwater projects, one in Taylor Run, one in Goose Creek. Fortunately, we won't hear about those applications for 8 to 9 months. I have a feeling the decisions are made in like 4 or 5 minutes, but it takes 8 or 9 months for them to let us know. And then lastly, and probably most importantly to all of us in the building, we got our final analysis back on the roof here. Pannoni put a price tag on it of $426,000. That is to repair all the water damage in the existing roof, repair the drainage angles and system, and put a whole new roof over top, 25-year warranty, both sides. We continue to get rained on every time it rains. We have to throw the buckets out, and we're covering workstations and computers with trash bags so they don't get ruined. So we'll have more information about this in February, but it's pedal to the metal, putting together a bid package so we can get that done as soon as possible.
One question I saw, there was a meeting about the demo for the Zukin, for the hotel.
Yeah.
Any idea when that's gonna?
I don't. Kevin Gore would know the most about that. Yeah, I don't know a thing.
Comments from the public?
Yeah, I don't know. That's news to me that they were working. They might be mobilizing again, the contractor, to get ready to go again. But I was not out there today. I don't know.
Thank you. Action items, number 4, approve the Chester County Intermediate Unit Joint Purchasing Bid for fuel for wastewater plants.
Hi, just here to answer questions if you have any. We've been in this program for probably about 7 or 8 years with the CCIU. We work with we get in with like school districts and other municipalities, and we bid out the diesel and the heating oil, and we always get the best price. It's worked out very well.
And so what is the cost per gallon?
I know the heating oil right now is $3.03 a gallon. I don't have the diesel at the top of my head right now. It's a little bit more, I think, but not much. This is our contract was right before this whole thing happened with Ukraine and everything, and we were sitting pretty locked in.
Okay.
But all the prices started going up.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Does the committee recommend that to?
Yes. Okay. Item 4B, approve the December 2022 meeting minutes. Any questions?
Approved.
Approve 3-0. Any other business?
Hello, my name is Chad Weldon. I'm the owner of the Masters Baker down on 319 West K Street. I'm not sure if this is the right time, but I have a parking concern. Can I talk about that now?
That sounds like a parking committee, which
It is, but I was addressed by Ramsey that I could bring it up tonight and discuss it. Oh, it is? Am I the wrong one?
Sorry, we're in the Public Works.
We're all good.
Okay, seeing none, we will adjourn at 6:47. Thank you.